Hello again, guys. This is Judas Black, Wrestling with Bros, Talks with Judas, and tonight we have the Barbarian, Bruss Hamilton. How you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So we kind of like to give our guests the spotlight, and you're a pretty big name out there. So why don't you go ahead and talk about yourself here a little bit?
I don't know too much about a big name. I've been kind of spreading my wings in the Midwest. I'll take that, though. I'm just a pro wrestler hitting the Midwest scene, gentleman barbarian, Bruss Hamilton, bringing a unique style of offense that I haven't been able to find just about anywhere else yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, attacking it hard. I'm just trying to make a name for myself, make a living in this business, and try to put out the best product to entertain the fans.
All right. So you heard it there, guys. The entertainment, that's what it's all about, giving the fans something to watch and to enjoy. There's a team that was in WWE that you kind of remind me of, especially when you do the little twist with your mustache. The Vaudevillains, I think it was.
Yeah. I actually met them at a show in Minnesota, SXW. They were on the same card as and I actually had a little moment with Simon Gotch because of the mustache and my look, and he took me under his arm a little bit and gave me a lot of advice about how to kind of make that style work. Now he and I are a little bit different. He's a more technical, sound and complete wrestler, where there's a reason why I use the gentleman barbarian. The barbarian side for me it's a little more wild. It's not as clean as most wrestlers do.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen it. I actually a little while back I seen you deliver a power bomb to Kid Lat. Man, that poor little guy. he didn't stand much of a chance against you, that's for sure.
He had it coming, let me tell you.
So I recently actually watched an episode of Monday Night Raw, where I seen you you fulfilling the role of security. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
I've done security a couple of times. It's no secret. Gabe Sapolsky, he runs the WWID program, he runs Evolve, and he runs the Extra. And that's where I would fall under. They use me as an extra a lot to just anytime you can have a date open, and if he deems you worthy, like basically you're reliable and trustworthy, he'll bring you on the show. I've done a few things on that show. I don't know what you saw, but I know that like I've done something with Gunther and Jey Uso, like keeping them separated.
There it is.
The most recent one was Jade Cargill threw me out of the ring on SmackDown. Yep. The Bronson Reed Braun Strowman fight, when Braun Strowman jumped off the top rope, I was in the pack to catch him. And if you watch that back, and I like to tell everybody this, if you watch this back, you won't see me until he rolls, and I'm the only guy underneath him. He took me out. Man. Yeah, he took me out.
I mean, you're a big guy yourself, but man, Braun Strowman is just a beast.
Yeah, that's what a real big guy is. I'm strong, but I'm strong for my size, is what I like to say. Braun Strowman is enormous.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, I could see him on. I can only see him on live TV unless I go to a show. But for you personally, you got to see these two behemoths of a men, both of them in a ring, and that's just crazy. So this WWE has this program, like you said, called WWID. What is this program? Because I've seen it around, but kind of curious as to what it is.
I'm not involved with it, right? I can give you whatever information that I've found and heard from other wrestlers and things like that. Basically, it's Gabe Sapolsky. He's like the independent scout for WWE. I don't know if he has a team. I only know of him. And he basically watches I mean, when I mean he watches all independent wrestling, I mean he watches all independent wrestling, and he just
Okay.
decides who he thinks is worth WWE's money
Yeah.
to that they will pay them to go and train and be able to afford to fly to more places and get more reps in on the independent circuit
Okay.
and then bring them in for Evolve. I know they do some, assessments and reviews periodically throughout their contract,
Hmm.
and that every one of their goal is to basically, like you don't just get WWID and then you go, oh look, I made it. Like they're trying to get onto NXT and eventually the main roster.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's, enough about WWE. Tonight we have Bruss Hamilton, the Gentleman Barbarian, on the show. How did you get into wrestling?
Well, that is pretty straightforward. I didn't grow up a fan. I didn't really watch. When I was a
Okay.
kid, I kind of watched the Attitude Era. Like I knew who Stone Cold was. I knew who The Rock, Undertaker, Kane. Like I knew the big names.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but I don't know a lot of famous moments. I don't know what everybody's move is unless it's like the big one, like their finisher or something. I didn't
Okay.
have a lot of knowledge. I was first. I first was a professional strongman, and
Okay.
so I did strongman for a long time. And in 2023, I was the World Strength Games champion. So I was an international competitor, number one in my class. It was it was a big accomplishment. And once I had won that, I was kind of like, what now? You know,
Yeah.
there's no real money in the sport and the weight class that I was in. I'd have to be one of the giants. I'm not. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, how do I move forward? How do I use my body? I spent 16 years making my body what it is, being able to perform the way it does. And I
Yeah.
thought a natural transition for that, because of guys like Braun Strowman, because of guys like Mark Henry, um, a natural transition to that would be pro wrestling. And I
Yeah.
arrogantly thought, oh, this will be easy. I was like,
No.
yeah, we were just at a house show, and I'm in Indiana. I took my wife and children to a house show in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we
I
were
lost your
watching.
sound.
What's that?
I lost your sound.
Oh, did you?
I can't hear you.
Hang on. How's that?
1 second. Guys, we got a technical difficulty. Go ahead and go out and come back in.
Okay.
So it's a technical difficulty here, guys. Bruss Hamilton will be right back. We did lose sound feed on that, but it does happen, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and bring him back in.
How's that?
You there?
Yeah. How's that?
1 second.
It's got my microphone. It's picking up my volume here.
There, I got you.
Okay.
All right, all right. Sorry about that, guys. Lost the connection somewhere, but we're back. We're back. I apologize for that, Bruss. It does
That's all
happen sometimes, especially when you're going live. You never know what could happen. So,
What's the last thing you heard from me?
we were talking about Mark Henry and Braun Strowman and the strongman contest stuff. Guys like them coming into the wrestling business.
So I kind of thought of that and said, well, that's a natural transition, especially Braun Strowman. I didn't know him personally in the strongman, but I followed him. I was a large fan of his when he was a competitive strongman. I knew everything he did. Just thought he was a great representation of the country in the sport, and was excited because I honestly thought that he was going to become world's strongest man one day, because him as an amateur strongman, he was blowing everyone out of the water, and guys like that usually go on to win it all. So I looked at that and saw him transition. I knew Mark Henry transition, and I said, okay, I can do that too. And like I said, I arrogantly thought that this would be an easy thing to do. Because I was at a house show with my wife and kids, and we're looking, and they're not really doing anything. And I was like, well, I could do that. My wife's like, yeah, you could. Why don't you? And then I was like, okay. I started looking up wrestling schools, and stumbled on Black and Brave. And they had housing. They were only 5 hours from my house. So it seemed like the best deal for me to go move to Iowa for 3 months and train under Seth Rollins and Merrick Brave and Matt Mayday. And that was really where I fell in love with pro wrestling and said, "Oh yeah, this is really what I want to do."
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned the name Black and Brave. Tyler Black, Merrick Brave. Um, I actually live in Davenport, so
Oh, okay.
I know exactly where that school is, and it's Seth Rollins, Tyler Black, however you know him as. It was awesome that him and Merrick brought that school to this city, and gave people the opportunity, such as Bruss Hamilton himself, to be able to become wrestling superstars. So, what's the most rewarding part of wrestling for you specifically?
Well, right now, for me specifically, with how new I am, I would say it's a tie.
Okay.
Firstly, I would say the education that I get every time I get into the ring, the knowledge that I gain with the reps, and I really love being challenged, and I really love conquering those challenges. So every time that I get that challenge, every time I get in the ring doing something new, I go, "Oh man, I've never done this before. Here we go." And then I succeed because so far that's what's happened is I've been lucky enough that I haven't really messed up too many things. Um, that has been one of my favorite things. And secondly, the fans, whether it's booing or cheering, I just really, really enjoy the fact that they want a show. We give them the show, they react to the show, and it's a real connection. It's a real relationship.
Absolutely. So, you say, the fans, they boo, they cheer, they react. How does a wrestler react when he's getting booed and, the fans just really aren't acknowledging him? How do you feed off of that?
When you're being booed or when they're not acknowledging.
When they're booing you and when they're not acknowledging you, when you're trying, and how do you react to that? I mean, how
Well,
does the,
if you're a heel and you're getting booed, you're doing your job. So
yes.
that's a good thing, That's no big deal. But when you're not getting acknowledged and they don't care what you're doing, your reaction should be to change what you're doing. You have to figure out what they're looking for. How do you bring it out of them? That's our job, is to entertain. That's our job, is to make them want to see what you're doing. And if they're quiet, then you need to change it up.
Okay. All right. You heard that, guys. Change it up. You got to find out what the fans want and how to get that reaction out of them, whether it's to really irritate them and really push it out of them, or, trying to find a way to, make them happy. So, what's your favorite wrestling promotion and why?
That's a tough one because I had every wrestling promotion that I work for, it has something that I love, like absolutely just love. AAW brought me in. Danny Daniels brought me in because he coached my coaches, came down to SCW Pro to watch ACH, and I just happened to be on that show. And he really liked what he saw, and he brought me in and immediately put me in the top heel faction. And I really like that show because Danny teaches me and gives me awesome moments. And it's AAW. There's so much history there, and you get to be a part of that. Chicago style wrestling is another one that's one of my favorites. And that, Steve Boz, Marche Rocket, we're the top heel faction, the main men right now. And Hades, the promoter, they've all like singled me out and kind of put me in positions to succeed and are wanting to teach me and get, Hades is someone that I talk to every show about what he wants and what he's looking for. And what he wants and what he's looking for is for me to be me. And he always finds a way to articulate that and improve me. And so that's another thing that I love about that show. And that crowd is wild. Really, that's a really good one. That show is booming right now. Um, then, oh boy, what is that?
That's a phone. Hold on. I
Okay,
apologize. 1 second.
that's all right.
All right. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
I was
Um,
like,
I was saying Dreamwave next. Dreamwave brought me on with Ryan Zishi, and getting to come in and be the big bad and just hammer people down. And that's a show that sells out. Like almost every show, they sell out in the first 15 minutes that the tickets go on sale. It's incredible. All these shows that I'm on are like that. They're great hot crowds, a great locker room filled with good people that all want to, we all want to accomplish the same thing. We want to give the best show possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is kind of hard to choose because there's so many great indie promotions out there and so many options to be able to wrestle. You just got to be able to prove yourself and get in the door and give the fans exactly what they're looking for. So, who is your favorite wrestler of all time? Who kind of gave you that, I don't know, that hype behind wanting to be a wrestler? Was there somebody that you kind of fed from?
Gunther.
Okay.
100% Gunther. I absolutely love everything that man does. I think he can do no wrong. He's just, I watch all his interviews and everything. He is unapologetically him at almost all times. There's an interview, a podcast he did where he said he told the WWE no twice.
Okay.
They wanted to bring him in. He said no twice because he's like, I'm doing me. I don't want to go somewhere where they're not going to let me be me. And I just really respect that. And I like how simple but effective he is in the ring. I try to mirror that style. I'm 290 pounds. I'm a big, heavy guy. And there, I can't do a lot of these spots that all these other guys are doing. I can't do a lot of big flashy moves. All I am is strong, and so that's what I like to do. Is how can I be as simple as possible while still remaining effective to achieve the goal?
Okay. All right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned Gunther, and I do want to ask, what is your thoughts and your opinions on this recent attack on Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on Monday Night Raw?
Oh, I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely beautiful. You got a couple of guys that are running their mouths, and I mean, Gunther is like, what has he had in his whole career in the WWE? Maybe 4 losses total.
Yeah.
Like you don't get to run your mouth to a guy like that. He's gonna come and chop or choke you. Chop and choke you. That's what he does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Chop and choke um, is what happens. So, what are your biggest wrestling goals for the future?
I would say, I'm May 11th will be my 1 year anniversary since my first match. So I'm coming up on that this week. And my first year goal was to get as many reps as possible. And I can't remember the exact number. I think it's like 106 or 107 matches in under a year in my first year. And so
Yeah.
I really pushed it on getting as many reps as possible. This year in 2025, my goal is to kind of cement myself as an impact player on every roster that I'm on. So like AAW, Chicago Style, Dreamwave, anytime GLCW wants to bring me back, all of those, like ones I'm almost always on. Like I want to try and make sure that I'm a key part of it and really cement myself as a recognizable name in the Midwest. If I could
Yeah.
push the number one name in the Midwest, that would be even better. Um, 2026 goals: try to spread the wings and fly a little bit. Get to the West
Okay.
Coast. Get to the East Coast. Um, in 2027 and beyond, my main goals become my own brand in independent wrestling and bring my brand of wrestling to whatever promotion needs to give their champion a challenge, needs to give a heel, has a heel that's getting out of line too much. Will bring me in. I'll put him back in line. Like that.
Okay.
Really want to bring that brand of when you hear my music hit, I want everyone to go, oh, shit. Like it's Bruss Hamilton's gonna mess this guy up.
Here comes the Barbarian. So a typical day in the life of yourself, a wrestler as yourself. What is a typical day like inside and outside the wrestling world?
Um, well, 7 day a week operation, right? So Monday through Thursday, typically, I work at a building like an hour and a half away. I'm a CNA. I'm a caregiver for the elderly as a shoot up.
Okay.
And yeah, I know. It's not something most people realize. I really enjoy doing it. I like taking care of others. It's one of my things in wrestling. Is my biggest goal is to always make sure the people in the ring with me are safe and I'm not hurting anyone. And so I like to take care of the elderly because it's a, and not to go on a soapbox here, but it's a bit of an issue that I've seen in the industry where these elderly get put in these homes and they get forgotten. And so what they need is a CNA that cares that they exist, cares that they are alive, and I try to make sure that I meet all their needs all the time, every day that I work. And so you work like an 8 to 12 hour shift, sometimes four if I can get away with it. From 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 6 to 6. Then I'm also married and I have 6 children. So you come home and it's time to gotta make sure the house is ready for the kids to get home. What kid has what sport? What kid has what club? I've got kids in band, choir, t-ball, football, track
Jeez.
stuff. Yeah, and make sure that dinner's there and ready to go. And I'm mostly the cook of the house. I love to cook. I also have a small homestead, little 9 acre homestead. I raise cattle, so I have 4 head of cattle left from a beef business I ran before I got into pro wrestling. So, got to do the chores to take care of the cow, take care of the land,
Yep.
and clean the house, and then try to be a husband to my wife after all of that.
Oh man, you have
Yeah.
a very, very busy life. I'm a podcaster, an inspiring potential wrestler, just making it a little at a time. But I thought my life was busy, but man.
Oh, and I,
So
I forgot. I forgot. I still train 3 to 4 days a week, so I have to go. Basically, everyone goes to bed, and I go to the gym.
okay, all right. So a typical day in the life of Bruss Hamilton does not sound like he has much free time other than
Oh,
what he already does. You know, I was going to ask this next question, but I think you kind of answered it. The biggest challenge is in balancing wrestling with other aspects of your life. I don't think we need much more of an answer to that because you kind of just broke that down. Um, how do you prepare yourself mentally for a big match?
that's definitely day of. I am not someone that thinks about something for a long time, and I learned this in strongman. It's what helped me become a world champion. There's no point in dwelling on something and letting the nerves attack you before, uh, because it's not going to do you any good. It's okay to have like a healthy mindset about it where you think about it sometimes, but if you sit there and fixate on it and let it affect your everyday, then you've got a problem and you're going to end up messing something up because you're just too frantic. I'm big on flipping the switch right before I walk through the curtain. And when you're in the back and you're calling the match and everything like that, it's just all about remaining calm. uh, I was very well trained at Black and Brave, and then I went on to get some advanced training by Jake Coleman at White River Wrestling in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I was very well trained by Jake as well. And
Okay.
so there's that. I have to have confidence in myself, confidence in my abilities, and confidence in those in the ring around me. And if that confidence is there, so there's not much else to go into the prep other than do know what this is a I'm I went off a little bit, but this is a tip
Oh, good.
that Gabe Sapolsky gave me when I first started wrestling, and it was know what you are and know what you are not. And if you know what you are, then what are you worried about? Because I'm going to have an answer for everything that my opponent does because I know what I am and I know what I do. So to prepare for that match, it doesn't matter if it's for the biggest title in all the land. It doesn't matter if it's against the biggest name in all the land. I'm going to attack that match just like it's any other.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. So, what's the most memorable match you've ever been in?
I had a really good one this weekend with my tag partner this past Friday. My tag partner Ryan Matthews at NWA Chicago.
Okay.
Now it was against Jack and Eddie, and we ended up losing. I ended up hitting a post really, really hard. Kind of took myself out of the match. But altogether, that was the best match that Ryan Matthews and I had as a team, and putting it all together and getting it going and getting the crowd behind us. And even Billy Corgan came up to talk to me about it after, just about how impressed he was with the match and everything that went along with it.
Okay. All right. You just brought up two names, Jack and Eddie, Jack Valor and Eddie Grayson. Two spectacular young talents out there on the indie circuits. Um, what is your thoughts and your opinions about those two young gentlemen?
I think they're amazing. I really, really like those guys. We came on to CSW almost the exact same time. We have been spreading our names across the Midwest at almost the exact same speed. I've got a little, couple of more shows than they do, but that's because of the way I look, and we all know it. You know, like that's why I keep on a lot of shows. Um, and they are very, very hardworking guys. That again, they know what they are. They know what they own it. They
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how do you handle injuries? How do you handle injuries and stay in peak condition at the same time?
Funny you bring that up. Last year, I think it was after about, I think I was only 3 months into my like actually wrestling every weekend, and something happened. I don't have health insurance, but there was a very loud pop and a lot of swelling, and I just ended up putting on a knee brace, a couple of knee braces,
Uh
and
huh.
asked promoters to just let's structure the match around my leg, and they were okay with it, so we all just kept wrestling. Uh,
Okay.
there was a match that I had. You saw me at once at Defiant Pro. The last match that I had, I ended up having a small tear in my. Um, and again, I just train around it in the gym, and I also wrestle around it until it gets better. It's just about making sure that I can still perform, still get in front of people. And again, I don't have health insurance, so I can't like totally figure out everything. My wife's a nurse practitioner; she can kind of like check me out, make sure I'm good forward. But it's just like in strongman. I had some serious injuries in strongman, and I found a way. So that's what I'm going to do in wrestling as well.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do you prepare yourself to perform in front of a large crowd? Is it easy, or is it something you just kind of got to take a deep breath? Is there like pre-match rituals you have leading up to getting in front of a large crowd?
Thankfully, my history in life. I was a drama kid, right? So I did a lot of theater. Then I was in the Marine Corps, and I got some pretty decent positions where I was in front of a lot of people, important people at times. Then after that, I got into strongman. I've been performing in front of crowds every show there on a national or an international stage. And wrestling, it was kind of by the time I got to wrestling, it was kind of the norm. But I will say that it is much easier to perform in front of 1,000 people than it is 10.
Okay. Okay. And why would you say that is? Why is it easier to perform in front of a lot of people versus a small crowd?
Well, it's kind of like hitting a target with a bird shot instead of a single cartridge, right? So because I have way more people there, so that means the higher number of people are going to like me, or a higher number of people are going to dislike me, and the crowd tends to go with the flow of the noise. So if enough people boo, more will boo. If enough
Okay.
people cheer, more will cheer. But if there's only 10 to 50 people and nobody wants to make a noise, nobody's going to make a noise. And so it makes it a lot harder.
Absolutely. That makes complete sense. If you get a couple people going, it's going to get the next couple going, next couple, and it's easier to get a bigger crowd making some noise than it is just a couple people. Um, what do you believe sets you apart from other wrestlers?
My gimmick,
Okay.
my championship background, my style of wrestling. That is something that I have put all my focus on, is trying to be set apart from other wrestlers. I just did a seminar with Jamie Noble on Saturday, and that was the one thing he said from my match, a little 3-minute match in front of him, was that my offense was outside of the box and very unique. And that is something I've worked very hard on, to bring a little more raw style. You know, we all get trained to perform wrestling moves one way. There's really, oh, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. This
Yeah.
is now, every once in a while, they'll have someone who goes, oh, I was taught to put my hand here, or I was taught to do this. I'm more of like, hey, we're going to have the same result, but I'm going to grab you this way instead.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm going to pick you up this way instead. You are just as safe. Everything's going to be fine, but I'm going to make it look a little bit different so that I can, it's for me to stand out, for exactly what you said, what makes me be separate. You know, I have the tattoos, my body type, the look that I have seems to be pretty unique for the indies so far, everywhere
Yeah.
so I really think all of that comes together to keep me separated from the pack.
Okay. All right. So, what would you say? Everybody's got their thing that makes them special, makes them unique. What would you say is your most used technique that people would probably know you by?
I don't really have a technique, and that's what I think is what makes me step out. You know, I
Okay.
have the one-armed gorilla press, and I've shown some other wrestlers how to do it, and they haven't been able to do it yet, and that's because I have real shoulder strength, so I try to tell them, like, yeah, these guys, when I grab them and I do that, a lot of it really is me using my shoulders to press that human over with
Yeah.
one hand. So I know that one is pretty unique, uh, but like, I don't really have like a move that I think that people would see and be like, oh yeah, that's a Bruss Hamilton thing, because all I try to do is just be a wrecking ball.
Okay. All right. All right. So, just say, obviously you're headed into the circuit. You're trying to build yourself and get up into the big times. Making it into the big times, what is a name or a superstar that or someone you would love to face? If you one night you walked out there, you said, "I'm Bruss Hamilton. I'm laying down the challenge." Who steps out from the curtain that you would love to face?
Oh, hands down, always going to be the answer, Seth Rollins. Uh,
Okay.
not just because he's my coach, not just because like we have that student coach connection. When I started looking into pro wrestling, he was someone that stood out to me. He was someone that was separated from the pack to me. And what really stood out to me with him was that he was always able to do his style against anyone. It didn't matter who he faced. It didn't matter what size he was. It didn't matter anything, any parameters whatsoever. Seth Rollins gets in the ring and Seth Rollins does Seth Rollins things.
Yes.
So I would really, really enjoy to see him with my style and see how he would be able, because he's just so talented, right? He's just so good. Like, I feel like he would really just be able to, he would elevate me in
Yes.
the way that I do things. And I would love that.
Absolutely. You say elevate, and most recently, Seth freaking Rollins, part of a new faction on Monday Night Raw with Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker. What's your thoughts on this new faction, and what's your thoughts on Braun Breaker?
The new faction is fantastic. I think that I really like the direction that's going. I think it's a unique faction. People say, "Oh, it's been done before," like when you have like Triple H and Batista and
Yeah.
everything like that. And it's like, I don't think so. You know, because Seth Rollins is so unique, and you can say Batista, but Braun Breaker is not Batista, and Batista is not Braun Breaker.
No.
This is a whole new thing, and I really, really like that faction. And my opinion of Braun Breaker is all good, all positive. I've not had a conversation with him when I've done extra work, but I've been able to witness his prep, his mentality, the way he talks to other wrestlers and everything.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for that, and I really like what he brings to the ring. that level of intensity. And I think that people don't realize, if they don't know his shoot history with football and weightlifting, like I've studied about him, he is just so freakishly athletic. Like, and he hasn't even displayed just how athletic he is in the ring. And I'm not sure he'll be able to, because he just has so much power and explosion in his body.
Yes. Yeah, no, we recently, on Monday Night Raw, we've seen him lay out Roman Reigns through the barricade. We've seen this man throw himself like a lawn dart at people. Like, he's just so fast. And how fast? 23 miles per hour fast. It's just insane how quick he can move. So what's a memorable moment from your wrestling journey that stands out to you? Something that you've done or seen or have had happen to you personally, or just you're just standing back and watching it?
That's a tough one. I've had a lot. I've had a very busy first year, and this first year has been filled with a lot of moments. Starting from my very first match at Iron Spirit Pro against Shane Boucher, which is still one of my greatest matches I ever done, because I believe that Shane Boucher could wrestle a mop and make it look good. But there's moments like that. I've got one upcoming this weekend again at Iron Spirit Pro. I've got a championship match against Solomon Tupu, and I'm really looking forward to that one. Another
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest men I've ever been in the ring with. So I'm going to have, again, this is another challenge for me. How does my style of just throwing people anywhere I want them work against a guy who's 300 pounds? Now, I'm not saying I can't throw him, because I can, but it's a new challenge. I know a big moment that stuck out to me was the last Chicago style wrestling show, for sure. With tag teaming with Steve Boz once again against Jack and Eddie. And Steve Boz has taken me under his wing and has really shown me how to be a complete version of myself. And we dominated that match from start to finish, and we're able to win the #1 contendership to get against the tag team champions coming up on May 16th. And that is probably a really big moment. That, again, that NWA match was great. David Hero at GLCW, that was a huge moment, because he was someone that recognized something in me immediately because of the way I looked, and gave me some chances in his promotions that we both view as complete successes. So they were all good. It's just, again, Dreamwave. It's just everything that has happened to me in wrestling, I feel like, has been I need to step back and look at this, like you said, like all of the moments, because and that's what it's about, right? It's about appreciating the journey, every step of the journey. Yes, do I want to be signed to WWE? Absolutely. Do I want to make the big time? Do I want to main event WrestleMania? Who doesn't? You're lying if you say you don't, right? But I can't sit here and focus and only stare at that goal, or I'm going to miss all these amazing people that I get to work with. I'm going to miss all these amazing moments that I get to create. I'm going to miss all these amazing fans I get to see after the show. So really, when I talk about stepping back and looking about what my favorite thing is, I would say my favorite thing is the full journey.
Okay. Absolutely. So what are your thoughts? Obviously, there's a lot going on in wrestling right now. WWE being bought by TKO, joining forces, and now there's talks where they've initially signed some kind of deal with TNA and AEW to do crossover episode matches. What is your thoughts on the evolving landscape of wrestling as a whole?
I think it's fantastic, and I think it means more opportunities for us on the indies to get to where we want to go.
Okay. I mean, that absolutely makes sense. When you've got AEW, wrestlers in the indie circuits going to wrestling in AEW, going to wrestling in TNA, and then WWE lining up with these other promotions to do crossover episodes, that does open tons of opportunities for indie guys to be able to make some kind of a face or appearance in the WWE. Obviously, we all know WWE is like the the big top dog on top that everybody's reaching for. They once said by Vince McMahon himself, reaching for that brass ring for that opportunity to be seen in the wrestling business. So I do have to ask you, me and my podcast partner, he wasn't able to make it on here tonight with us. We do commentary and our podcast at a promotion called MCW, Midwest Championship Wrestling. Could we ever see Bruss Hamilton in MCW?
Oh, absolutely. I've heard great things about that promotion. We really haven't talked any dates yet. Do they run on Fridays or Saturdays?
They've ran the first couple of shows for the year were on Friday, but normally they run on Saturday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess. I'm never going to say no. We got to make the time work out. It's been hard to get on this show with you. We've been trying for months. So
Yes.
it's because and you just heard my schedule. You understand why now.
Yes.
Don't have a lot of free time. So yeah, no, we could absolutely see me on MCW.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. That'd be great. One day we show up at the show and there you are. It'd be great to meet you in person. Their most recent episode, guys, if you want to go check it out, it's on Midwest Championship Wrestling's Facebook page, on YouTube, their YouTube page. You can just go straight there. Check out the most recent episode of MCW. It was an amazing show, an amazing time, and you'll love to be able to see that. The first actual show where I actually got to hear myself commentate, and that was great. So you got to check that out. Bruss, we've reached that time of the show where we're going to get ready to say our goodbyes here. But first off, it's spotlight time, guys. Anything you want to address with the fans, any upcoming shows, kind of put yourself up there right now because this is your time to shine. I thought you froze there for a minute. I was like,
no,
what happened?
No, I didn't think for a second. Sorry. Yeah. So, like I said, May 10th here this Saturday, I've got a championship match against Solomon Tupu, which is going to be absolutely lights out with me walking away with a new title. Can't wait for that to happen. Then the weekend after, May 16th, I've got Chicago Style Wrestling, where Steve Boz and I have a tag team title match. What do you know? I'm going to walk away with even more titles. Crazy, right? 3 and 2 new. And then May 17th, I'll be at AAW, where I'm going to go ahead, myself and my tag partner, Sabotage, Sean Logan. We're going to wrap up Hartenbauer's career, Mike Hartenbauer. We're going to go ahead and just end it. He's been attacking me with a baseball bat. He's been attacking me with Mike Bennett. And I'm just about done with all of his crap. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap his career up for him. Let him know that his old time is done and the new guy's here to stay. And then actually, I'm really excited about this one. I'm really excited about this one because I did a pre-show with them a long time ago. Haven't been able to be back since. May 18th, I'll be in a battle royal for Second Wrestling. And I'm really excited about that one. Again, because it's a great promotion. Excited to be on that show. Them bringing me back in. It's going to be a good time. And really for the May 3rd. Yes, May 31st. Healthy Brain Entertainment. We're going to be in Berwyn. And that's a big one. You've got Matty Ice, a former Reality of Wrestling champion, going against Moose. That's just on that. And that's not even including me. I'm just excited to see that match. Those are two phenomenal wrestlers about to blow the roof off the place, if it's still there, because I'm going to be in a triple threat match May 31st at Berwyn against Nasty Nick Nolan and Richard Holiday. And I'm going to tear their limbs off and beat them with them. It's going to be a great time. You're going to want to.
I've seen Nasty Nick personally myself. He was with MCW for quite some time, recently losing a match for a title opportunity against Axel Rico due to what we like to call here at Wrestling with Bros, the Ottawa screw job. Eric Schultz cheating in that match and costing Nasty Nick the match against Axel Rico. And unfortunately, we lost Nasty Nick at MCW for a while. Hopefully seeing him back here real soon. We miss you, Nick. So definitely, get back to MCW. And a big name you mentioned, Matty Ice, was wrestling for quite some time with MCW as well. And him and Nasty Nick in a match against each other just tore down the house. So, those are some very big names. And Moose on top of that, TNA. He is a phenomenal superstar. Recently taking on Obi Femi in NXT. Those two brute powerhouses just going at it was crazy. So, guys, this has been an amazing episode with Bruss Hamilton. Talks with Judas. This is a little session podcast that I love to do when my podcast partner can't make it, but the show must go on. Bruss, go ahead at this time if you'd like to say your goodbyes here, and then we're going to wrap this up here. Talks with Judas.
I'm just going to shout out the social medias here. Instagram is Bruss Hamilton Pro. Facebook is Bruss Hamilton. X is Bruss Hamilton Pro GB. YouTube is Bruss Hamilton. I don't really have much on there yet, but we're going to get that going eventually. TikTok, Bruss Hamilton Pro, Gentleman Barbarian. Usually if you look up Gentleman Barbarian, I'm usually one of the first things that pops up. So find me on all my social media platforms. I also have a Patreon where you can have different tier levels. If you want to follow along with my workouts, it's just a $20 a month there, or $15 a month to follow along with my workouts. I'm not going to coach you. I'm not going to tell you how to do them. But if you want to do exactly what I'm doing to look and be like me, that's the easiest way to do it. And I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And just like Bruss over here, follow us on all our socials, Wrestling with Bros, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Don't need to go too in depth. All you got to do is look up Wrestling with Bros. Same with YouTube. But this has been another amazing episode with Bruss Hamilton, Talks with Judas. You guys have a great night. We love you. Thanks.